Hello to my viewers on YouTube. Really excited to bring you the second video of my channel. Today we're going to be discussing asset allocation. There's a lot of confusion about asset allocation, and I see people making mistakes all the time. And in this video, I'm going to help you think about asset allocation more clearly so you can make better decisions going forward. Now let's start this video off, right, Minnie, with a quote from the late and great Albert Einstein. Try to understand everyone, scorn no one, don't believe anything blindly. Well, the theme of this channel really is not to take anything at face value with your hard-earned money. And when it comes to asset allocation, that is no different. What is asset allocation, to start this off anyway, right? Well, generally speaking, it's the percentages of the different asset classes in a particular account. You have cash, you have bonds, you have stocks, and you even have alternative investments. I'm not really going to get into what makes up those different categories in this video. Another video we might certainly do that. But really, we're trying to figure out, in a particular account, if you have these different percentages, does that make it conservative? Does that make it aggressive? Why would you want to have a conservative or aggressive account? So we're going to go through all that, right, Minnie? Just very excited about the topic today. So let's think through this. When you think about asset allocation, cash is going to generally be your most conservative instrument. When you think cash, it generally doesn't move a lot. You're not going to get a lot of interest. The upside's not a lot. If you've looked at your bank statement recently in a checking or savings, you might get like 0.01%. It's not very much. But in exchange for that, a lot of times your account might be FDIC insured from the US government up to a certain limit. You'd want to look at that yourself because there's a lot of things that goes into it. But generally speaking, cash is conservative. Stocks tend to be the most aggressive. I like to call stocks, especially US stocks, a roller coaster. They're up, they're down, but in general, it's an upward trending roller coaster. Especially when you look at any major correction in the US stock markets, we've gone up from that point. It's upward trending, yet it is a bit of a roller coaster. So why would you want to have a conservative account of cash? Why would you want to have an aggressive account of stock? Well, it comes down to really two main items. And this is your timeline. I guess she broke away. That's okay. Hopefully she'll be back. But it comes down to your timeline, and it comes down to your personal risk tolerance. The first one, timeline, fairly straightforward. The shorter your timeline for needing this money, the more conservative you should be. The longer the timeline, the more aggressive you should be, strictly based on timeline. For example, if you're making a down payment on a house in 1 year, you probably should be mostly cash. You probably don't want to ride the roller coaster for this hard-earned down payment money for a house, because what happens if you're down 20 or 30%? Can you still make the down payment? Is it not enough? Do you have to wait another 3, 5, 7 years? You probably don't want that. So generally speaking, shorter, more conservative, longer, more aggressive. Now, that's pretty straightforward, but the second piece that really can drive me crazy when I see people making decisions about their asset allocation, or even working with an advisor for that matter, is when you look at your personal risk appetite. Oftentimes you might even take a survey that says, if your account's down 30%, if your account's down 50%, what are you going to do? Well, if you've never lived through that scenario or haven't really, been in the nitty-gritty of your investments, you might not know what you're going to do. So if you're going to rely on a survey to, kind of answer, 1 through 10, this is kind of what I think I'm going to do, 10 being more likely, 1 being least likely, it's going to spit out some results and tell you, well, based on that, maybe you should have a 60-40 portfolio, 60% stocks, 40% bonds. And similar scenario too with maybe taking a survey about your timeline. Maybe it's saying if you're this age, if you're retiring in this amount of years, you should have this percentage in stocks or bonds. But it might not take any personalization around, well, when you retire, are you going to have a second job? Do you have a spouse that's working longer? Do you have a pension? So you really do not want to take any of these surveys at face value. They're a tool, and we use those tools in my practice too, but it is not the end-all, be-all. The biggest thing I want you to understand is the result if you did take that survey at face value without knowing what this result is. So let's kind of break it down. We're going to break down some numbers in a second. But I wanted to propose something to you if you haven't thought about this. Could you not be coached to have a higher risk tolerance? A lot of times we just think, oh yeah, this is my risk tolerance, this is my survey. And we're not leaning on a trusted advisor or a family or friend or reading a book about the US stock market showing we've been through a depression, a recession, World War I, World War II, 9/11, pandemic, I mean, you name it. And we've had major corrections where your account will be down significantly. But we've recovered and then a lot from that. So if you can understand that, could you not be coached to have a higher risk tolerance? Think about a kid who is scared to go on a ride, but consults his friends, his family, and realizes, wow, this ride's pretty safe. There's never been one accident in 10 years, or however many, maybe never been an accident is probably a better way to phrase it. So he was coached into being able to go on that versus just saying, oh, I'm scared of this ride, I'm never gonna do it, I'm never gonna have any fun. So don't take that at face value, and here's what's gonna really solidify it. Let's say, for example, you're in your 30s, retiring standard age, maybe around 60. So you got 30 years to go, you got 100 grand in an IRA, and a survey told you, based on your risk tolerance and some things you answered, that you should have maybe a 70-30 portfolio. 70% stocks, 30% bonds, and let's say that portfolio, hypothetically, I'm not saying a 70-30 portfolio makes 5%, but let's say it makes 5%. After 30 years, compounded at 5% interest rate, that 100K turns to $432,000. Not terrible, but if you had to answer the survey differently, and it recommended a 100% equity portfolio, and hypothetically, let's say that made 10% annualized. Instead of $432,000, you're looking at $1.7 million. Do you not think you could be coached to have a different risk tolerance knowing that? Because if you can, then the choice is obvious. If you know you can't stomach that for whatever reason, and you're not working with someone or on your own, whatever, that's okay. But you need to know this before just taking a survey at face value and saying, boom, this is my allocation, I'm good, set it and forget it. Don't make that mistake, because you're losing out on potentially billions of dollars, thousands, whatever you're starting with, but you just need to know that. If you like this video, hit the subscribe. Look forward to joining you soon with another great topic. Take care.